Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. In this video, we are going to talk about something I haven't done much on this channel, and that is acoustic ceiling panels. You'll see we've got these really nice white oak slat acoustic panels for a large home we're gonna be doing. And I actually have a couple hundred panels that are gonna be installed in this home, 8 different tray ceilings. So what we've got here is a mock-up of the detail, and we want to get this approved by the homeowner and the builder before we do anything, especially on a job of this size and magnitude. Clear communication and liability management is extremely important. And I say that because really for a couple reasons. Number one, a lot of times homeowners are hiring an outside architect to design different details for their home. And a lot of times they don't understand when they're looking at a 2D print, what it's actually gonna look like in real life. So whenever you can present something in its actual form to show some of the different details, it can really put their minds at ease and my mind at ease as well, to know that we're giving them what they want and they know what it's gonna look like in the end. I hear horror stories all the time from builders and subcontractors who go to install different details and then it ends up not being exactly what the homeowner wants or what the architect designer wanted or what the builder wanted, and you're tearing out expensive products. I'm pretty proud of the fact that I've never really had to tear out my work because I did something wrong or didn't communicate it over the years, and I certainly didn't want to start on this job considering the magnitude and expense of the product that we had. All that being said, this was the mock-up that I created here in the shop to take to the homeowner and builder so that they could see exactly what we planned to do. Now, there was a couple different goals that we were trying to reach with this design. One was that whenever we terminated this detail, we wanted the same reveal that is between these slats to be all the way around the perimeter of each of these 8 ceilings that we had to do. So as you know, that's super tricky with layout and execution. So we needed to get a good game plan on how we were going to do this. Let's start with the framing component. So the site conditions were specified by the architect that the ceiling was to be drywalled first for sound absorption and air barrier purposes and stuff like that. And then we were to come in and install our subframing to the drywalled ceiling. Now, obviously, having our framer install these framing drops, there's a lot of issues with that. Number one, they're not gonna know the layout dimensions in order to make these trays exactly what they need to be in order to achieve the proper spacing, number one. Number two, we all know that framing material is nowhere close to straight and flat. And if we want the underside of all these ceilings with this slat wall to be perfectly flat, it was gonna take a trim carpenter's touch to do that. Now I wanna show you guys how I went about doing the layout. And essentially I modeled the whole house. You'll see here, this is the first floor outline, and this was done with actual site dimensions. Over here, you'll see the lower level area. And up here, this would be the primary bedroom. So all those are actual site dimensions. Then I put in the trays, which is what you'll see right here. And again, those are verified site dimensions. So what we wanted to do was take our slat wall panel layout and lay it out such that whenever we come all the way across here to the end, that we end up with this exact same reveal space as we have between the slats everywhere else. So once I did that layout, you can see here, highlighted in blue there, that's a full panel. And then I ended up with just a 2 slat panel right here. And then I'm able to put in my perimeter trim detail there. And then right here would be the end view of my framing component. You'll notice I do have a gap right here. That's just a space. Looks like I had it at an 1/8 inch. It's better to undersize than have it too big. So that is essentially how I did my layout. I started with the slats, laid them out so that it was centered across the tray, drew in my perimeter trims, and then started my framing components from there. And then here you'll see, well, you can't really see it very well, but this was all the framing that we built. And you'll see little splices right here. We built these in paneled sections. So on this large ceiling, we had 6 sections of framing that we installed. On the smaller one, we've got 1, 2, and then 3 sections. But you'll see that end view, that's the key there. That's how we did the layout. And then if we go over here to, this would have been the primary bedroom. They were running the opposite way. And again, here, see the same thing. You'll see my slat layout, my perimeter trims, and then my framing. So that's how we went about getting the framing done precisely. The other thing we did with our framing drops on site was I had all of the framing material shipped here to the shop, and then we ran all of our 2x4s at least one pass through the joiner to give us a straight, smooth edge on one side of all of our 2x4s before we started framing anything. This gave us a much flatter ceiling in the long run. So we assembled these large paneled units of framing material here in the shop and then just took it to the job site, and then we could just essentially lag it to the ceiling and we were in business and ready to start installing. It worked really well, and it was very fast to install the framing then on the job site. The other challenging aspect of this design was this perimeter trim detail. So we have our acoustic panels, and then around the perimeter, you'll see that we've got this white oak 1x2. But we also had specified that this was essentially going to have a ledge detail, and there's going to be LED lighting all the way around this framing drop. That meant that the inside of this needed to be pre-finished. Well, it needed to be able to be finished white. Eventually, we needed to have this ledge built in here to set our LEDs on, and we also needed to have a way to attach this white oak 1x2. The problem with all of that is that these framing drops were inside of a larger framing drop, which only gave a 4-inch cavity between the edge of this and the sidewall. So there wasn't enough space to actually get a nail gun in here to do anything. And there also wasn't any space for a painter to be able to actually get a spray gun up in here and spray this finish white. So we were just really dealing with all kinds of different challenges and trying to come up with a design that would I guess, neutralize all those different challenges. So here is the perimeter trim detail that I came up with to deal with this whole situation. We've essentially got 3 pieces of trim here. We've got a 1x4 and then a piece here that is 1.25 inches wide, so that the bottom of this white L piece is a total of 2 inches wide. And then we've got a 3rd piece on here, which is a white oak 1x2. Now let's see if I'm not going to be able to get that off. As I mentioned earlier, the challenge we had was there was not going to be enough space once this was on the ceiling for the painter to be able to get their gun up in there and actually spray this. So we really needed to pre-finish it. The other thing was this white oak band around the perimeter, it really needed to be pre-finished too, because how are you going to get finish on this inside edge going all the way around this thing? You're really not. So we knew we needed to come up with a solution where the painter could pre-finish it. So we prefabricated this L trim, and we sanded and prepped all of our white oak 1x2 to receive finish. The next question was, how are we going to attach this white oak 1x2 to our L trim, because there's a sidewall that's only 4 inches wide and it's not large enough to get a nail gun in. There's probably a better way to execute this. And then alignment comes in as well, because when we attach this white oak 1x2, we want to have exactly the correct space for the slat wall in here. So the design that I went with was to route a biscuit slot the entire length of this L trim and the entire length of each of the 1x2s. So that would help with alignment, but there was one other thing that we could do that would really take it to the next level, and that was to use Lamello K20 biscuits. Now, if you're not familiar with these are biscuits, they're plastic, and they essentially have barbs on them. So whenever you push them in, they stay stuck. So what we did was we put these Lamello K20 biscuits in, and that allowed us to attach our 1x2 just by tapping it into place, and then it was perfectly secured, and we didn't have to have any exposed fasteners on this white oak piece to attach it. And then we also had the exact offset that we needed underneath here, because essentially what we wanted was for our acoustic panel to finish out just like that, with that 3/8 reveal along the bottom. So hopefully that all makes sense. I know I'm talking a lot here, but there was a lot of time and thought that had to be put into this design to get it to execute well. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. I wanted to make this video just to explain the overall design concept of what we were doing. And then in the next video, you're gonna see the actual installation of this stuff on the ceiling. It was much more tedious than I expected. We had a huge amount of struggle whenever we were cutting these, getting them to line up perfectly. So basically by the time we did our first ceiling, I realized that I just wasn't happy with the alignment that I was getting. And spoiler alert, we ended up cutting all of our cuts on the ceiling with a track saw, which was a very cowboy move, but it gave us excellent results. One other note, you'll notice on this mock-up here, we have this reveal detail going down the center. And the reason for that is because of the size of these ceilings, we were obviously gonna have panels splicing together. Now, as you can imagine, if you actually tried to butt all of these slats up to each other tight, it is not gonna look good. They're not gonna flush out perfectly, and they're not all gonna line up perfectly. So I strategically wanted to add this 3/8 reveal detail on all of my splices, and it ended up working out really well. But again, I wanted the homeowner to see this detail in person and get it approved before we actually started doing it on the ceiling. We installed over 200 of these panels, and they're about $150 a piece per panel. So it was a lot of money in materials and labor to get this done. So clear communication was really important. Hopefully this helps. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and stay tuned for the next video where I show you the installation process.